Again. All right, so we have our scene all set up to render, batch render, and here's our example in Arnold of what the scene will look like. So I'm going to change from modeling to rendering, and then go to the render settings. And the first thing I'm going to change is the file image format. We used Targas when I was in school, and they're still available here, but this year some students have saved their files out as Targas, and they haven't always been able to open them in other file in like Photoshop or whatever. So I'm just going to say JPEGs, because we know that JPEGs that's a pretty standard format. First name animation extension. So this is going to put the name of it. For example, scene 1, and then dot is, or the number is how many frames it's going to be. So I'm 0 to 100. So each frame will have from 0 to 100 in that, and then the extension is JPEG. So I'll just use that as my my naming convention. And then let's see, I'm going to go to Arnold renderer because we're using the area lights, and there shouldn't be too many settings to change, because if it looks pretty good in your render here, it should look good in the actual rendering. The other thing to change is, so I'm going to start my frame, and you guys aren't going to start at 0, but just for the quick example, I'm going to hit it at 0, and I'm going to animate to frame 100 for this shot. And then the other thing that's really important to make sure to do is select which camera you're rendering to, because I don't want perspective. I want camera 3. And 640 by 480, that's probably not a very good, that's too small. I'm going to say HD 1080. So it's a lot bigger and nicer, 1920 by 1080. You can leave the resolution at 72. I think that should be good. The other thing to check is, let's see, go back up to the top. Yeah, I think that should be good for now. So there isn't a save button, which I always thought was strange for Maya. You make all these settings and you think you'd want to save them like with the animation preferences, but instead of saving it, you just close it and it remembers it. So you don't have to worry about saving it. Anyway, so this is what my scene is going to look like. So once you've set all that up, you go to render again, and then we're going to go down to batch render. And I'm going to click the options. Let's see, it should have shown me the options. Why didn't it bring that up? Render, batch render. Render, Arnold does not provide batch render options. Okay, maybe not. Oh, I'm sorry. One thing I forgot to show you in the render settings was where it's going. That's what I was trying to get to. Render options. Okay, up here you can see the path. So Maya is defaulting, its default position to drop these files is in your project folder. And so if you created a project called lip sync, it's going to drop them into the lip sync images folder. So make sure that you've actually created a project and you call it lip sync, because then it will create all the folders that we've talked about, and it's going to drop your renderings into images. And I just wanted to make sure that you see that, because that's, if you render it and you don't know where it's going, that's not really very useful. So now I can just say batch render, or just, just render, let's see, render sequence. And it'll process and do its thing. So I don't know how long that's going to take. My computer, we need to run the critique today, so I'm just going to go ahead and cancel it. But Oh man, you can see it's rendering my camera view, even though we set it to the right camera. I'm sorry, it's rendering my perspective view instead of my camera view. So I'm going to cancel that. Now we go into render and camera 3. Yeah, I don't know. We changed it in the render settings. I don't know why it switched it to a different camera, but yeah, if that happens, you would just, you know, reset your camera. So I'm in the render view and I click render, and then I would click the when it finishes rendering this one.
So for our final project, we can just do another lip sync.
Yes, if you want to.
Okay, what would the other options be?
Yeah, so as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to show you the some of the examples of the work that my students did last semester, and they just did Play Blast. They didn't do full rendered images. So, anyways, yeah, that's pretty much. You just make sure that you're using the right camera for rendering, and then you're also assigning it to it's assigned to your lip sync images folder. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video, and we're going to talk about